Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. King and Spadina remains closed tonight. Streetcar wires at the major downtown intersection were brought down by a garbage truck this morning. All traffic, including TTC streetcars and buses, had to be diverted, causing extensive delays. The intersection is expected to remain closed until the end of the week for repairs. Chris Glover takes us through what happened.
Well, this intersection here at King and Spadina has to be one of the most active intersections of the day, but not with vehicular traffic. Take a look at all the activity that you're seeing still. Around 8:15 this morning, this garbage truck here with its bin in the upright position came through this intersection, knocking down the streetcar wires overhead. This intense cleanup effort has been taking place ever since, but at that exact moment, there was one woman that we talked to who was coming through this intersection, and she describes what she saw and heard.
The light was green and I came across. When I got to the other side is when I heard the great big boom. Everything went red, like a fire. It was no flames or nothing, but everything went red after the big bang. So we knew it was live wires.
So the live wire concern here, obviously a big one, and that's why police have it cordoned off here while the crews continue to work through the day. Police say that there have been no injuries associated to this. Obviously, this is having a big impact on everybody trying to get around, pedestrians needing to walk around it. Drivers obviously are not able to get this through this area, and there have been big lineups in different areas. And then obviously it comes to the transit lines, the streetcar that runs east-west obviously being diverted, and the buses that go north-south here also not able to run. So big impacts for a lot of people. Here's how some of them reacted to all of this today.
Well, I might be late for the office, but now I gotta walk. I was gonna take the streetcar and make it on time. Now I might be late.
We can see all the people who are working here are walking today. Not just the east-west, but then all the streetcars are blocked today.
The Spadina streetcar has been halted since this summer. Now, part of that work is modernizing the wires overhead. Clearly, the wires, though, themselves pose a potential safety issue, and some of the people that I've been talking to today are saying that the wires themselves are just too archaic.
There's no point in modernizing the wires, though, right? To me, it looks like an obsolete technology. Right, it could have been the regular buses or the battery-powered streetcars.
Yeah.
There's no point in having all these wires, and it looks like it's a very old city.
Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
York police have made 2 more arrests in the August murder of a Markham realtor. The burned remains of 56-year-old Yukying Anita Moy were found in Parry Sound 3 days after she was reported missing in Markham. A 19-year-old man has now been charged with manslaughter, kidnapping, and forcible confinement in relation to her death. Another man, a 24-year-old, is also now facing several charges, including indignity to a human body. York police are still searching for a 47-year-old man wanted in her murder, but have said he may have fled to Hong Kong. 2 teenagers were also charged in the summer with firearms-related offenses. A Toronto area man involved in a robbery in April, which led to the deadly Wrongway crash on Highway 401, has been released on probation. Manpreet Gill was a passenger in a cargo van that police chased down in the opposite direction of traffic on the 401 in Whitby. The chase ended in a fiery crash that killed a 3-month-old infant and his 2 grandparents visiting from India. The driver of the cargo van was also killed. Last month, an Oshawa court heard Gill acted as the lookout during a liquor store robbery in nearby Clarington. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts, including theft under $5,000, as well as breaching probation and a release order. Gill was also warned he may still face immigration consequences. The SIU says its investigation into the incident is ongoing. Uncertainty hangs over Parliament Hill as MPs break for the holidays. The House of Commons held its final sitting of the year today amidst growing calls for Justin Trudeau to step down as Prime Minister. Now, this following Chrystia Freeland's stunning departure from Cabinet yesterday, a move we are still learning more about. Ashley Burke has the latest from Ottawa.
This House stands adjourned.
As Parliament's fall sitting ends, an increasing number of Liberal MPs say it should be the end of Justin Trudeau.
I believe there needs to be a leadership change.
Last night, Trudeau told disaffected MPs he's heard their concerns and would think about his future, but has said that before and stayed on.
The Prime Minister is living in a false reality. He's delusional if he thinks we can continue like this.
In the last 24 hours, half a dozen additional Liberal MPs have joined public calls for Trudeau to quit, even past offenders.
I've always been loyal to Mr. Trudeau. I think loyalty, though, is not a one-way street. I think he should reflect on his future.
A final straw for some MPs was yesterday's bombshell resignation by Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, after she says Trudeau told her she was being moved out of finance. A Liberal source told Radio Canada that Freeland was told she'd be replaced by former Governor of the Bank of Canada, Mark Carney. But a source told CBC News Carney had not agreed to the move when Trudeau and Freeland spoke.
Whatever happened, the culmination was that she was treated very abysmally.
Liberal MP Anthony Housefather says Freeland's resignation letter was a call to action.
To me, it said, Anthony, you also have an obligation to speak out the way Chrystia did. What I think he should do for the best interest of the party and the best interest of the country is to resign as leader of the Liberal Party so we can select a new leader.
In another blow, the Liberals were defeated last night in a third by-election this year, this time in BC.
The Canadian people have basically been telling us for some time, the street has been talking to us, and they're saying that this leader cannot be supported. And we have to listen to that, and the Prime Minister has to listen to that.
But cabinet ministers and other MPs are standing behind Trudeau.
He has my confidence.
He's a strong leader. He's focused on delivering for Canadians.
I think all of us should be loyal to the Prime Minister.
The opposition seizing on it all.
What a mess. Yesterday was a gong show at the bottom of a dumpster fire, wrapped up in a cluster.
Let's call an election before the end of January.
Trudeau has to go.
The Prime Minister right now is facing a return to Parliament in the new year with no clear idea if any opposition parties or even his own caucus will support him. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Toronto City Council kicked off its final meeting of the year today. The mayor's key priority, moving ahead with a plan to incentivize purpose-built rental housing. Sarah McMillan reports.
17 new housing projects have been approved by the city under a new program that reduces property taxes and waives development charges for purpose-built rentals. The city says construction will start on over 7,000 new rental units by the end of 2026.
This is for the workforce, people who work as PSWs, who work as truck drivers, who work as, primary caregivers. They cannot afford to live in the city of Toronto. They're being driven out.
The city says developers could save close to $60,000 per unit and much more for affordable rental units, which have more financial incentives. Not all councillors think that's a good thing.
These are all resources of the citizens of the city of Toronto. All of the money that we don't collect in development charges and in property taxes have to be made up somewhere. We've got to pay for the services.
But the mayor says the incentives are working and will see apartments built that wouldn't have been otherwise.
The response from the developers exceeded our wildest expectations.
Chow says the city received 75 applications for projects that would add more than 30,000 units. She wants to see the program expanded, but the city would need funding from the province and Ottawa to make that happen.
Great, we can get a few thousand units built this way, but we need the federal and provincial governments to step up. We're in a housing crisis because they dropped the ball a generation ago and they're leaving it to us to fix. We can't do it by ourselves.
When your approach is always just ask other levels of government for more money, I think we're not going to see a lot of housing built.
But Chow says she's hopeful.
We are setting our example and proving that our model works.
Waiving fees for these first 7,000 units will cost the city more than $450 million. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
The mayor's housing plan is just one thing council is tackling this week. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords joins us now to break down what else is on the agenda. And Sean, let's start with road safety. Now, council passed a pair of measures aimed at saving lives on city streets. Tell us about those.
That's right, Kelda. So Council passed today its Vision Zero plan for 2025. So this is a program the city has had in place since 2016, and it aims to bring the road deaths in the city down to zero, as it says. So they increased the budget to a record high $99 million. That's a 25% increase from last year. And that will be used to create traffic calming measures, to redesign intersections, and to add more speed cameras around the city, actually doubling them from 75 to 150. So that was one thing council did. It also passed a measure that will see it retrofit all of its heavy-duty trucks with side guards. So these are pieces of equipment that protect pedestrians from being hit or pulled under the trucks in the event of a collision. Here's Mayor Olivia Chow talking about the need for that additional safety measure.
It's basically a piece of metal that extends from the truck near the wheels, and it's not expensive to do. And I just wish the federal and the provincial government mandate it, because adding these side guards on city vehicles and to all the trucks across Canada and in North America will mean that pedestrians and bicyclists, and when they come into a collision with these trucks, they will survive.
So, Kelly, you can hear right there, Mayor Olivia Chow has really been advocating for this change across the country, not just in Toronto, for a number of years. So she is continuing her call on the province and the federal government to make these mandatory for heavy-duty trucks everywhere, really.
And Sean, John Tory's old transit plan, Smart Track, is also on the agenda. What is council dealing with on that file?
So, Kelda, the Smart Track plan has come back to City Council. This is a new iteration of this plan, which has been around for a number of years, really since 2014, when former Mayor John Tory pitched it. At that point, it was a 22-stop separate transit line. At least that was the intention. But over the years, that has been changed, whittled down, really. It changed to a transit station plan on existing GO lines, and another changes before council again, and that will come tomorrow, it seems, moving from 5 stations to 3 stations. Let's hear from Mayor Olivia Chow about the fiscal constraints that are behind that decision.
We have to make sure the existing TTC service is reliable. We have to fix the signals. We saw last week, my God, you know, we can't have a subway running that way. We have to improve services for TTC. Now there are more people taking TTC on bus and streetcars. This is great. But we have to buy new electric bus. We have to fix the track work.
So, Kelda, the mayor is essentially saying that $1.7 billion envelope that is there to fund Smart Track, the costs have escalated. They've gone beyond it, and the city can't afford to put any more money into it. It needs money to do all those other things she outlined. So council is going to be asked to dial it back from 5 stations to 3 stations tomorrow, and they have to decide which stations to keep.
And Sean, finally, councillors have approved an increase in water and garbage rates. What will those charges look like next year for homeowners?
So these are some of the most basic services that the city provides: picking up your garbage, delivering, clean water to your home, and homeowners are going to be asked to pay more next year. Interim rates were set today. They'll increase by 3.75%. So on the garbage side, that means that the fee you pay for your bin, depending on the size, will increase by anywhere from $11 to $21. For water delivery, for water services, the average user will pay about $39 more under these increases. Now, council has approved those today. They could change depending on where the budget stands when it's finalized in February, but often they remain the same.
Thanks so much, Sean. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords at City Hall. 2 employees at an assisted living facility in Oshawa have been charged in the death of a resident. Durham police say on March 31st last year, a 79-year-old woman left Aspera Traditions of Durham around 7:30 p.m. and got locked out overnight. She was found the next day on a bench outside the home. An autopsy determined her cause of death was exposure to the elements. The 2 workers have been charged with criminal negligence causing death and failing to provide the necessaries of life. As we've been reporting, there has been a troubling rise in jewelry store thefts in the GTA this year. In response to this, York Regional Police are setting up booths at several malls, not only as a deterrent, but to reassure the community. Ali Chiasson has more.
These smash and grab thefts are violent.
We're having these brazen daytime incidents where people are coming into jewelry stores armed with hammers and smashing glass display cases. We're seeing groups as small as 3 that are up to now, I believe, 12 in one incident.
York Region is seeing a spike. In 2023, there were 7. That's about doubled this year. Police are starting to notice patterns, too.
A lot of people that are involved in this are youths. And for the amount of money that they can get for doing relatively little work, it's very concerning.
It's very scary. It's unnerving. I'm with my elderly mom, and I'm more afraid for her than myself, but it is very scary, and I feel sorry for the merchants that have to worry about something like this.
Not everybody is aware of resources or who to contact when something like this happens, and programs like this enable that.
York Regional Police have set up booths in malls that have been hit before, providing information on who to call, not just to help in the investigation, but to get help after witnessing one of these potentially traumatic incidents.
Witnessing somebody get hurt, witnessing a public space get damaged can definitely be impactful, especially when we have young children around.
This booth is set up right in front of the People's Jewelers at Hillcrest Mall. These shoppers were there when the business was targeted a couple of weeks ago.
We saw like a bunch of police officers gathering outside, like a bunch of cars and everything.
It's to the point now where we have a booth set up by York Regional Police to tell people there are resources for them if they witness a traumatic event like this. What does that say about the state of things?
Scary.
Since these thefts are happening in busy malls, police hope the many witnesses and videos of the robberies will help them make arrests. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Peel police say the fight to keep illegal firearms out of the hands of criminals is getting increasingly difficult. They say their officers are seizing illegal guns at record levels. And to make matters worse, they are finding an alarming number of handguns that have been modified to act as automatic weapons. Greg Ross takes a look.
This is only a small portion of the overall number of guns that officers have taken off the streets in Peel Region.
We've had 205 firearms seized during the course of 2024. That is an additional of 60 more than the year previous.
Shootings are also up in Peel Region in 2024 by more than 70%.
If we do not mitigate them, as well as those that are perpetrators, we are going to see a continued deterioration, not just here in Peel, but right across the GTA.
To make matters worse, they say many of the people responsible for shootings are repeat offenders.
50% of the violent offenders that we arrest are already on a form of release for a similar or another violent offense.
The police chief says that they've had success finding guns and arresting those who possess them because of a special unit made up of 16 officers.
We call them our STEP team, which is the Strategic Tactical Enforcement Policing Team.
What they do is they go out on the streets and they look for people who are in possession of illegal firearms.
In 2024, STEP seized 53 illegal firearms, more than 900 rounds of ammunition, and they arrested 50 people. Many of the guns that have been pulled off the streets by STEP have been modified to fire hundreds of rounds of ammunition per second, and all it takes is this small, inexpensive device called a selector switch.
This takes a semi-automatic handgun, slides onto the back, and it now turns it into a fully automatic handgun.
Of the 53 guns seized by the STEP team, 41 were illegally smuggled in from the United States. They're still waiting to get results back on efforts to trace the origin of the other 12. Greg Ross, CBC News, Mississauga.
right, Colette is here to tell us how the rest of the week is shaping up, and we got a little bit of snow and a whole lot of cold on the way.
Yes, when we get to it, to the end of this week, and when winter begins this weekend, some very cold air. But in the meantime, it's these gentle temperature undulations, you know, that we're going through. And they're kind of responsible for why tomorrow, when we do have a system that's coming through with some snow, it's really not going to be that significant because the temperatures are going to be on the milder side or just above freezing. So let's talk about how mild the temperatures were, for example, last night. So our high for the day, we reached it in the wee morning hours. This is midnight last night. It was 10 degrees in Hamilton, 12 in Niagara Falls, because that temperature kept climbing yesterday evening. Toronto was at 9, Windsor at 7, and then this morning we had fallen, still well above freezing and still certainly mild, and then we kind of sat there around 3-4 degrees through those afternoon hours. Well, we'll come down a little bit further overnight tonight, but this is just one little drop we'll have in temperatures as the system moves through. That Arctic air that's really going to be popping in, that's coming in Friday night and into the weekend. And yes, we have our winter equinox on Saturday as well. But what's, you know, you can look at this as, yes, the days are getting shorter as we go towards Saturday, fewer hours of daylight, but after Saturday, they start getting longer again. So we have that to look forward to. This is what it's looking like on your roadways, kind of giving your timing for tomorrow. A few flurries perhaps around 9 a.m. I think the morning commute in the GTA will be dry, but as we get towards late morning and midday, that's when it's kind of slushy, especially near the lake shore. It's just sort of melting on contact, might get into a couple of centimeters closer to the 407 or certainly a bit further north from there. And then early Thursday, maybe some sunshine, and then clouds kind of push back in and some flurries kind of linger into Thursday and even that risk into Friday, in fact, of having just a few flurries. But yeah, negligible. Let's give it a centimeter or two and probably won't even see that for the snowfall totals. Overnight tonight, -1 for that low for both Toronto and in southwestern Ontario. You'll get that in Windsor as well. 2 degrees on Wednesday, still well above seasonal for the overnight lows Wednesday and Thursday. And then there you are. As we move towards Saturday, -10 in the morning, because that's Friday night's temperature, into Saturday morning, -6 during the day, and then -15 Saturday night. Yeah, and Christmas comes next week, and it's going to warm back up.
Yeah, and winter are really arriving with a bang, right?
Yeah, it certainly is making its presence known.
But glad to hear that Christmas is warming back up. I'll take it.
Yes, it just doesn't look good for snow because of that. But
no white Christmas. Thanks so much, Colette. That's all the time we have tonight. Have a great night, everyone.